Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode. My name is Dana Mantilia, and I will be your host. And our guest today is Adam Bowen. Welcome, Adam. How are you?
I'm well, thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Glad to have you here. Adam is with Anchor. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about you, a little bit about your business, all that kind of jazz.
Sure. So, myself, I'm a serial startup guy. I've been in the data space and automation space, part of a company called Blade Logic, part of a company called Delphix. And so this really is kind of the emerging of the two, if you will, from a technology journey. But, you know, Anchor itself, we love what we do here. We're really about eliminating the friction between business and security. We know there's always at war with each other, and we'll probably dive into that a little bit, but that's really the heart of what we do. So
Definitely. Yes. Let's dive in with a nice, easy question. Okay. So, what is Anchor?
yeah, so give you kind of the obligatory speech here, but where traditional IT controls focus on locking down networks, devices, and people, um, all this is done in the name of protecting data, but it actually ever seldom lives up to its promises. So once the files are moved, stolen, or shared, data is no longer protected. And even worse, these controls get in the way and frustrate business users to the point that they intentionally work around them. No endless stories there. So we invert the equation by baking protection into the data itself that's invisible to the end user. So think antivirus. And so this way, they're free to travel and security is out of the way. Just simply put, wherever the data goes, it's protected.
That's very good. We're going to get into the details of that in a minute. So, where did it come from? How was it started? What's the beginning part of the Anchor?
This is, actually, it's one of the reasons that drew me here. Is, we were founded at the Ohio State University. Our co-founders are affiliated with the university. One was a professor. He got his PhD at MIT, became a professor at Ohio State University. That's our CEO, Emery Coxell. And then our co-founder, CTO, Hari, he was a graduate student there. And so that's where this product first was incubated, went through their years of R&D. And in 2019, we became a private company and came out of stealth this last summer at Black Hat with Watt. So basically in my back door, I've worked in the Valley and I've worked for startups out of Boston. So the opportunity to latch onto a very exciting, burgeoning scene in Columbus and just generally in Ohio and right in my backyard. And it's a really cool technology. So all these things were just too good to pass up.
Yeah, that's a great story too about where it came from. All right, so now let's get into who is Anchor for?
Really, it's for everybody. So if you have sensitive data that you do not want to fall into the wrong hands, it's for you. So I use it personally myself. I've got tax returns. I've got, sensitive documents here from, my work and for healthcare information. I've got that personally anchored myself, but from a business perspective, we've got customers certainly like in the DIB or CMMC space, they're protecting their government CUI with that. We got people connecting financial records. And one of the most amazing kind of use cases, love talking about this, is that we actually have a group that's their eye surgeons and they actually record their ocular surgeries and they anchor the videos of those ocular surgeries to be sure that that patient information is never, stolen or misused in any way. Cause that's obviously super sensitive information that they need and should live the whole life of their patient. So anyway, it's basically for anybody that for a reason that they want to make sure that their data stays within their control and grasp and never from an unauthorized access.
And there's obviously a lot of people and a lot of businesses that need to do that. So this is something for almost everybody. Can you give us an idea of like an ideal use case or, something along those lines?
Sure. Of course, anytime you have sensitive data, it should be protected. But, I think the best thing I can give you as an example is, everybody thinks they're okay, right? I've got enough things. Why do I need another thing? But the thing you're really not protected against is data leaving your organization, or we call it exfiltration. You think about external threats. Everybody thinks about hackers, but the number one cause is insider threats. But so from an Anchor perspective, we have a customer that they thought they're okay. They had all the things we were talking, and they literally had all the things. But what happened was their FTP site was hacked. Information was stolen off that FTP site. And once that information was out of their organization, out of all their technical controls, they lost it. And so, they contacted me and said, they admitted to kind of what happened. They wanted to re-engage. They said, but first I have several Department of Justice interviews to do, and then we'll get going. Right. So again, the biggest thing is just generally you think you're okay by building strong walls, but once the enemy's inside the gates, those walls don't do you any good anymore. And so we're there to make sure that that data is protected wherever it goes.
Well, I remember we were talking one time and you were explaining to me about how the protection is baked into the data because you could build walls bigger and taller, wider, and all that kind of stuff. But if what's taken out of that environment, there's nothing you could do, like that example you just gave. So that's a really good example.
Exactly. No, exactly.
Who wants to do an interview with the Department of Justice because of a situation like this?
Yeah, precisely. Or you have to then go because they're all in Department of Justice, but that was flow down from big. So then they had to go and do Raytheon, conversations about their information that was exposed and explain to them. So imagine if you're a healthcare provider, you have to tell all your customers that their data had been breached or what have you, and all this stuff is there. So it's reputational damage, obviously fines and all that stuff. But I have one customer too that's no regulatory reasons to do so. So no Department of Justice, but simply their data exists in these large data set files. And it's people data that they basically do direct marketing on. And if they bought Anchor solely to make sure that that data couldn't be stolen, because if they did, it'd be ruinous financially to their business because all of their data, which is their gold and their fuel, would be gone. And so they'd have no value. So again, even just commercial reasons, you'd want to protect that data.
Yeah, that's a very good point. If you have valuable information that a competitor was able to, steal or get their hands on, that's a good point too. I hadn't thought about that. All right. So our next question. So how does it actually protect itself, and why does it need to be self-protected?
Yeah. So we borrow the term self-protected from the U.S. government. So they determine that data that is, and this is a DFARS clause. So if you're not familiar with the federal government, they're a regulational body that talks about how controlled unclassified information should be protected. But they say that if data is end-to-end, FIPS validated, encrypted, that data is self-protecting. It doesn't have to be double encrypted, which means you don't have to worry about the storage it's sitting on. You don't have to worry about the device it's sitting on, or the networks it's going over. For all intents and purposes, it could sit in like an Amazon S3 bucket that's world readable. Again, not advised, but it could, and that data is considered self-protecting because it's got the best level of protection around itself. And so, as a component of Anchor, one of the things we do is every file that we anchor has that level of encryption to it. And so ultimately that's what makes that data basically its own fortress, right? Able to defend itself. And so that's what it means to be self-protecting data.
That's a very good explanation of that. All right. And we went over a little bit why it needs to be self-protected, because if somebody takes it outside of all of the, castle walls.
Correct. I mean, and that's a good point, right? That you can't strain there. You have all the things just like in that, customer example I gave, but like I kind of say in the open spiel, once it moves from thing to thing, it's dependent on the thing or the person or wherever it's going to be the protection. And you don't have control over that. And you don't have, sometimes it unattendedly goes where you wouldn't want it to go. That's kind of the nature of data. Like teenagers, they're going to go plenty of places you don't want them to go. And the more you try and lock it down, the more likely it's going to be to go in that one place you don't want it to go. It's very much the same thing. So the only way to ensure that data is protected wherever it go and free to travel, like I said earlier, is if the protection's in the data, wherever you send it, it can defend itself. And that's the important difference.
I love it. Data's like teenagers.
There's a lot.
That's a good one. All right. So this is a very important question because I have talked to tons of MSPs that they go in and they try to install security and they literally have to sneak out of the building because everybody hates them by the end of the day. I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. So they want, like you had mentioned earlier, they wind up turning things off, and then now they're taking security away because it's too much of a pain in the butt. So they just want to say, forget the security. I got to do my job. So let's talk about the user experience and how disruptive that is with Anchor.
Yeah. I mean, that's for all the powerful protection-y things that we do, right? For all the powerful protections that we bring in, the real superpower of Anchor for our MSPs and for our clients is the fact that we do it as invisible as antivirus. I can't really stress that enough. So, it's basically transparent to the end user, but if something bad happens, then Anchor's there to, prevent that from happening, and we get the user back on the happy path. So they're not just frustrated. So that's the biggest thing today, because all these things, you can name it DLP, you need MIP, all these other things. In order for it to really do its job successfully, you have to kind of ratchet it up, but that breaks the user experience. Maybe you have to have special file extensions, or now you have to do these funny, right click things that, et cetera, to try and open a file, or, to use the data. And so that's all backward against the user experience. And then before you know it, they start, trying to find other ways around it. So.
Yeah, that is huge to be able to say to somebody that this is going to be as disruptive as antivirus because antivirus isn't disruptive. So, people will be more likely to protect more things, more data, as opposed to just very specific things because it's not going to interrupt their day. I mean, that right there is absolutely huge. And if anybody gets anything out of this, I think that's something, especially the MSPs who are the ones that have to deal with the clients that are not happy with the security measures that they put in place and they wind up throwing them out the window. So that's a very important aspect of this. How do you protect your data? Traditional IT controls focus on locking down networks, devices, and people. Anchor protects your data with a unique transparent combination of encryption, continuous multi-factor access controls, and a digital chain of custody. With Anchor, you maintain control of your files while collaborating on-premise or in the cloud, including forensic logging and revoking access. It's simple to implement and does not disrupt the end user. Simple, transparent, affordable. Anchor. Okay, so can you give us some example of what customers are using it for?
Sure. Yeah. So I think so. There's a few things. One is like super important is that obviously keeping data from being exfiltrated out of their organization by bad actors. But if you think about like a lot of things are just internal use cases. So if I kind of cluster analysis it, put on my little my old engineer hat, the biggest thing is around the employee experience because insider threats are the biggest one, or former insiders. It's notorious, right? Employee exit, they take data with them to their next job. It happens to all of them, either intentionally or unintentionally. Once they have it on their devices, they're either taking it with them because they want to, or they don't work for you anymore. So they're not worried about cleaning up their old data. Like, maybe they're on to their next job. So, make sure that can't happen because we can make sure with Anchor, you can revoke that access after they're done, even after they have the data. The other things are, of course, compliance reasons, trying to lower cyber insurance because all these things are cyber risk. But then even just trying to control information they work with other people to show and showcase like not only is the data protected, but they can give a definitive proof of when that data was accessed. So it's super huge for being able to have a burden of proof for auditing and logging and all those types of things.
So logging, that's a big thing with, I'm sure, a lot of compliances, but I know with CMMC, that's a big thing is making sure that you can log everything. So that's good. So does Anchor give you some kind of an easy way to do that?
Yeah, it's actually, one of, again, I call these things superpowers. So, we recently were speaking with a provisional assessor, and one of the things he loves about Anchor for his client is the fact that even if they use GCC High and these other things, these systems are still connected to the internet. So that means they're also susceptible to breach. And so it doesn't really matter if you have all those things stored in GCC High. If a system that has access to your GCC High environment is compromised, that data can be copied off of it and to Russia or 126.1 country, basically that's bad actors for those that are in that space, can be copied out of there. So those protections do nothing. But the reason he loves Anchor for his client is because if that system is breached, he can definitively show like during that window in time or, during the period that they're investigating, if any data had been accessed at all, if it's anchored, we'll have a definitive list. So he can either say, perhaps best case, nothing was there. So you still have to file a report to the agency, but you can say the scope of controlled and classified information was 0, which of course that's great. Or you can say if it was like 5 files during that window, you can say these 5 files potentially were compromised because maybe someone was just doing their work and they weren't there. But now, your scope is down to the forensics around those 5 files. And so again, it doesn't take hours of consulting time and scrolling through logs. It's just simply going into Anchor, show me all the activity, Anchor data that was accessed from this device over the last 30 or 60 days. There's your definitive list and you have your proof. And it's something you can export and give right to the auditor or right to the reporting body that you have to report to.
That's a huge thing about how it can tell you exactly what was and what wasn't affected because like you just said, the hours of consulting fees and all this stuff. I mean, when something goes wrong, it's going to be expensive. So if we could save and kind of identify exactly what was or what was not definitively, affected by that, that's a huge thing. It's a huge cost saver, at the end of cleaning up the mess. So that's really good. Good. Okay. Now everybody's going to be wondering, so this magical product, can anybody even afford to buy it?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Magic costs quite a bit, right? So, no, I mean, look, that's one of our key values. Key values here is again, we're for small to mid businesses. Our list price is just $16 per user per month. It's $192 a year, minimum of 10 users. I mean, so it's like $2,000 for less than $2,000 a year. You get all this. And it's a SaaS platform, so it just rolls out quickly, right? It takes a few minutes to go. I've got plenty of mom and pop shops that are, just taking the industrial manufacturing. All they do is they anodize tank bolts, right? That's all they do. Their nephew perhaps runs IT, and all they're trying to make sure is like that their data can't be stolen and that they can help, get some easy wins with CMMC compliance and, try and find the easiest, fastest way possible. Cause maybe they only do this one thing and it has this one tank bolt for the government and all the rest of their business isn't, right? So how can I protect that? And so for basically a little less than $2,000 a year, they've got it and they're just using it. Their data is protected. They don't have to think about it. It's a no brainer for them.
Well, that's huge that a small mom and pop that, may be very intimidated by the idea of all this cybersecurity stuff they have to put into place, that they can afford it. And that even somebody that is a bigger company that is trying to get CMMC regulations, squared away, that they can use it too. So it sounds like it's a very good solution for a lot of different people.
Mm.
Hmm. All right. Next question. Oh, have you ever won any awards?
Yeah, we actually won a few over the years that we're thankful for. Most recently, we're awarded from Enterprise Security magazine top 10 data startups up this year. So it's good to be noticed. We've won some awards for like the regional stuff and like because Ohio's up and coming, so it's kind of like the new Valley. So we've been recognized for some awards in that from kind of standing out from our peers there, and then even just the portfolio of companies that we're associated with, our great partners in the Ohio Innovation Fund, they've been getting great awards because of their results returning back on their portfolio. So back to the investors like Ohio State University and Ohio University and all those people. So we're just happy to be part of that contribution of success as well. So
Well, congratulations on that latest award. That's fantastic.
thank you.
All right. Okay, so we're getting ready to wrap things up. And I remembered that you had said you have a little saying with your company.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So we are all about simplicity, transparency, and affordability. And so we really stress that everywhere. So when you're talking to me, like if you're on the phone with me and I'm happy to talk to anybody, of course, take a call to anybody, but you're dealing with me or any of my colleagues or peers, or you're interacting with our website or interacting with our product, like, we fully ask our customers and partners, if we're never living up to these three values in anywhere in which you're dealing with us, like, please raise your hand and hold us accountable. Like, certainly me, it stops with me. So these are my values that I'm driving. And every day on our daily stand-ups and everywhere, I'm asking questions like, can this be more simple? Can this be more transparent? We feel like we have the affordability bit pretty locked down. So we feel pretty solid on there. And that's a pretty quantitative measure. But the other are kind of qualitative. So that end user experience, if I put my big dumb sales guy hat on, right, or just the general business user, can I do this without having any knowledge of technology? Does this just work for me? Or does it do what I think it should do? So that's so important because that's our end users. And so since we largely like to go to business with MSPs and that's our main driver, we know at the end of the day, like they don't want to deliver an experience that gives their end users heartbreak, that causes their end users to have to phone it into for support all the time, that gives them a high drag on their profit margin because they're doing all these support calls and stuff like that. So we drive that experience as part of what we do. So those are our three key values to make sure that we're delivering on those promises.
Well, that was fantastic. So listen, so now people are going to want to get in touch with you. What's the best way? We'll make sure it's up on the screen.
Yeah, sure. So two great things is, so we're launching our Try Buy experience. So if you just want to learn a little bit more about our product and get information, you can go right there and get started and get a limited version of our product to get that experience. Like, I can't believe it's really that simple, or, take me at my word, try me and see how simple it is. It really is there. That's the biggest thing I have. Of course, you can reach out to us at hello@anchormydata.com. So that's also another great way to get in touch with us. From that, and of course, we have myriad ways on our website. You can just click the button and chat with somebody or whatever you'd like as well.
Perfect. And then people can, of course, connect with you on LinkedIn too.
Oh yeah, please. Absolutely.
All right. Was there anything else you want to throw out there before we wrap it up?
No, I would say, I appreciate, being here today, and really, the biggest thing I hear from people all the time is, why haven't I heard of you before? And so, we're taking these efforts now to get the word out. And so people that watch the video, now,
Mhm.
again, a lot of things I say sound too good to be true, but when I'm in the meeting, I show them directly live, right? It's not like it's just how we work. And so like challenge us, like challenge our word on that stuff, and you won't be disappointed. So
Well, awesome. So what was that? Try Buy. So they can go to the website and they can do a trial for free,
yeah,
just kind of get a little gist of the whole thing and see if they're comfortable with it. So that's really handy. So no harm, no foul there. Right.
Exactly.
All
Yep.
right, great. Well, thank you very, very much for taking the time to explain all this to us. I think this is an amazing, amazing product. And I think a lot of MSPs are going to want to get in touch with you and have this to offer to their customers, as well as a regular business owner can reach out to you guys too, right? Assuming.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're happy to have these conversations for sure.
All right. Well, thank you.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Take care, everybody. Bye bye.
Yeah.